Hi, friends. Welcome to Getting Your Real Estate Life Together. I'm Tracy Hicks with All Things Real Estate. And today I'm super excited to invite Chelsea to the podcast. Yay, Chelsea.
Excited to be here.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to let you introduce yourself, but I'm warning you guys now. Usually we try to keep the podcast between, 30, 45 minutes, but I have a feeling this is going to go a little longer because you and I have so much to talk about. And I'm going to be honest, full disclosure, I'm going to be popping in some selfish questions for myself and my business of stuff that I'm stuck on. It'll benefit everybody, so it won't be that bad. But so Chelsea, please introduce yourself.
Thank you so much for having me. I am Chelsea Peitz. I am a real estate social media strategist. I am an author 2 times over. I'm a podcaster. My best role is I'm a mom and a rescue dog owner and a wife. And I've been in the real estate space for 22 years. I
Oh
think
my gosh.
half of that was spent without even social media even existing. So I've been here for a long time. I was an agent. I was licensed for 18 years. And I really passionately love, my superpower is taking complex concepts that have to do with social media and algorithms and all the things and helping to really distill it and break it down into bite-sized pieces where you feel empowered and not overwhelmed, because that's not fun. And we don't want to do that. So that's what we're going to hopefully talk about a little bit about today.
Totally, because realtors are already overwhelmed with their day-to-day. And then we just plop this whole social media thing on them and they're like, what?
Yeah.
So it's funny too, because I think we have real similar bios. I almost this morning checked because reading your bio and talking about how long you've been in the business, I was like, I think I need to check and see when I got my license. It was either 2004 or 2005. But same situation, been a licensed realtor forever. When I switched over to All Things Real Estate, I was like, oh, I'll just keep my license. And then I didn't do the classes. And I'm like, well, I'll just put it on hold. And then, of course, 3 people were like, I could have referred out. I'm like, okay, fine, I'll keep my license. So I have it. It's just, parked at my company.
I finally let mine go after 18 years because I didn't want to take the classes anymore.
Exactly.
So yeah, exactly. I did let it go, but yeah. So yeah. I hung on to it for 8 years, but then I was like, yeah, I'm good.
And you know what? Quite honestly, I didn't even realize this because I had never really referred stuff out like that. But that is a business in itself. You still have to market it yourself. You still have to market what you're doing. And it's still, you can't just you just think that people are going to come to you. So, and also the funny thing is that when you mentioned that, I'm like, I think we both probably came on when Facebook started. When it
Facebook, I think, is 15 years old. Instagram is 10. And I just don't remember. I mean, I do, but I don't remember a time before social media as we know it.
Yeah.
When I think about the time before social media, I am immediately I'm portaled back in time to my parents' house with rust-colored carpet, the encyclopedia behind me, and Carmen Sandiego on the computer. In my mind, that was before Facebook, and now it's here.
Yeah. And for me, Instagram, I remember taking a picture of my daughter. It was such a cute picture. And I was like, I'm going to put this on Instagram. And she was teenage at the time. She was like, Mom, don't do that. Oh my God. And it's my all-time favorite picture of her ever. Okay. So let's get into social media now that we're just talking about it. I really want to talk about your book first because, and you guys can't see this, but I'm holding it up right now because I have it. What I loved about it is that it's almost like school, which I'm sure people hate that, but you break it down so well to where it's you do the why part. This is why you should be doing it. And then the how, and you break down every little piece. So I felt like reading it from a realtor standpoint was really, really easy to do. How was it writing that out? How did you get all that stuff in your brain down on paper?
Well, I have to go back to the first book that I wrote because that was this beautiful hot mess. And there is something really amazing about doing something for the first time. So if you are a newer agent, or maybe you are an experienced agent and you haven't dabbled into the world of social, maybe you haven't even made a video yet, there's something beautiful about not knowing anything.
Yes.
Because now that I knew on the second book, I was like, oh my goodness gracious. But the first book, I remember it was just all over the place. And there was a moment, because I documented the creation of both of them. And the first book, funny enough, ironically, was about how camera first communication, specifically at the time Snapchat, was going to revolutionize how we were going to create a personal brand and a community, which,
Wow.
fast forward 7 years, here we are.
Right.
And so I had a moment where I had printed everything out and I was cutting up the sentences, one sentence strips at a time. And I had a 13-foot like table, and I had all these little pieces, and I was moving them around like puzzles.
Oh
And I
my
remember people were
gosh.
like, "Are you okay? Should we call someone? Like, we're very concerned about it was like watching like a meltdown."
Right. Don't
So
touch my table.
yes. So I had no idea what I was doing. But the whole point of that is that you get it done, right? You get it
Right.
done, you got it done, you didn't know what you're doing. On the second one, for me, I had all this content already. I had it over here, I had it on a post-it, I had it in a Word doc, in a Google Sheet, wherever it was. And I thought to myself, well, first of all, I wrote the book for me. And I wanted to have everything in one spot. I also wanted it to be in order the way my brain would think it needed to be in that order. So it just so happened that other people liked that order and other people liked how I broke that down. And so I originally made the book for me. And then I thought, well, since I've already made it, I might as well, put it out there. And
Right.
so I did. And that's how it kind of came to be. And so I will say the second time around was easier. I am a kind of person, if you are thinking about writing a book, I like to write chapters at a time, and I don't start in order. Sometimes I have no idea what the end is going to be, but I know that I can focus on a chapter, and then
Right.
I just move it around like a game. And that's how I did it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. And oddly enough, when you just said, I don't know if you're thinking about, I actually been trying to write a book forever, but I'm not a writer. But exactly what you just said, you wanted it for yourself. You had it all in your head and wanted to get it organized and laid out. You have it here and there. And we've definitely evolved as a business in terms of, we still kind of consider ourselves a baby business. We've been in 7 years, but still we're learning. There's so much to learn every single day. And
Mhm.
again, try not to get overwhelmed by that, and organizing it, I think, is such a huge part of it. Once you get it organized, and then I think what people do, and I know I do this, it's like, okay, it's organized now, don't touch it. But that's kind of not the right way to, like, it is ever evolving. So if something's not working, like, tweak it. Don't think that you
Mhm.
can't not change what you've got organized out and planned. You know what I mean? Like, realtors are
Right.
like orderly, especially when they're thinking about showings and their listing appointments and presentations and things like that. So I think we get stuck in our head. It's like, no, 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 you can't change that. But this industry changes so fast. And that is another thing that I definitely want to make sure that we talk about is you do such a great job. And I love this about your Instagram, about keeping us abreast of what is happening, because things are always changing. So whenever I see one of your reels or, your videos, I'm like, oh man, now I got to look out for this. Like, but you give the solutions and kind of the ideas behind it and how, because you're using it too,
Mhm.
right? I mean, that's the best part about things like this, is that you're learning from something that also needs it and benefits from it too. So how do you keep up with all this stuff?
Well, in the beginning, it was challenging because you have to think about it like this. I mean, I don't know where I'm coming up with this analogy. So this is the first time I'm using it, but I feel like if I was going to medical school, I would be overwhelmed with all of the stuff that I'm learning as a medical student. And so once I become the doctor or the professional, and I've got, some experience in the field, so to speak, then I'm not going to have to sift through and remember all of that stuff. It is a lot at the beginning.
Right.
So my goal now it's not as difficult for me to sift through it because I've been keeping up with it. A lot of people ask me, where do I get this information? And I want to use this as a learning lesson for your content as well, for your listeners who are out there getting stressed about content, because content stress is real. You do not always have to create the content. You can curate. So not create, but curate. And what that means is when the head of Instagram, and this just happened this week, goes and posts a video that could be very confusing to some. And I can go in there and say, here's exactly what was said. Here's what I think, even though I don't have proof of this actually happening. This is just my personal opinion. I can distill that down into something that's like more bullet point style. I'm not creating that content, but I'm curating it. And now people know that they come to my account, they don't have to wade through
Right.
all the stuff. And I'm going to really simplify it. Like, I'm not just going to give you a verbatim like screenshot. I'm going to say, here's what it said and here's what I think it means. Does it mean that? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what I'm guessing it probably means, but at least it gives you a point to start. And so I think that's important for real estate too, is when we have this incredible variety of information about the market, about loan programs, about the community, what does it mean to the person? So take it that step farther and take all this information for somebody who does not eat, sleep, and breathe what we do and say, and here's really simply what it means for
Yeah.
you if you own a home, if you're thinking about buying a home right now, if you're renting, if you're thinking about becoming an Airbnb, here's what it means. So just make it simple.
Totally. Yeah. And I want to say too that the reason why you and I connected was actually we might have connected because of Daisy and Cuddy, our chihuahuas.
Oh,
So I definitely want to talk about that too, like the personal and the business on your social media part, because that's a big thing that realtors are always curious about or wonder how to do that. But I think you had posted a question about something that Instagram had changed, like it was the badges. And we kind of were like, well, what is yours? Because your Instagram page is is a content
it's
page,
a
creator page,
Mhm.
and ours is a business page. So we were seeing two different things.
Right.
And they were launching things at different times or whatever. So you and I were able to like screenshot and be like, well, this is what mine looks like. What is yours?
Right.
You show me yours. I'll show you mine kind of
Yeah.
thing. And I want to say that, a lot of times realtors don't think that Instagram will benefit their business, but this is proof. We networked and we talked, and I was like, okay, I need to get you on the podcast, and here we are today. So
Mhm.
I want to say that there are other ways, because again, realtors do get hung up on like the content and how will this benefit my business? And again, Instagram or social media, it's not for every single person. Obviously, there's some people that want nothing to do with it and they're, not going to do it. This isn't for them. But networking with other realtors, other people in your industry, it's not about just getting buyers and sellers. So your page, you're mostly all reels on your Instagram, right?
Well, I am testing reels because I am trying to demystify all the things going on with that, because that's the number one question I'm getting. So
Yeah,
here I am. I'm like, well, I'll
I'll
experiment.
do it. I'll be my guinea pig.
Yeah. And so, but I'm not only doing reels. I am doing IGTV videos, which are longer form. And then I am doing swipeable carousel posts as well. So
Yeah.
I have not abandoned the feed. Truth be known, I've never liked the feed. I get very stressed out when it comes to creating captions and content and all of that. So as a content creator, I still have that content stress. So I'm leaning into the stuff that I enjoy more.
Yes.
And that happens to be stories and that happens to be reels. And I have a strategy for both, because a reels is going to help me get in front of people I don't know. And the stories is going to help me build the like, no trust with the people that are in my network and that are coming and are new followers. So I have a distinct strategy for both. But I think in light of some recent announcements that I just went over in my stories today, there's a little bit of a fear that, maybe I only should be doing video, or is this going away, or is
Yeah.
Instagram turning into another platform, and all those things. So
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the TikTok thing, right? Where TikTok, and also too, when Instagram first introduced Reels, there was that whole confusion around, everybody was doing TikTok and then putting their TikToks on their Reels. And then
yeah,
Instagram was like, no, you got to curate it on our platform. But people still do it. I don't know. Are you on TikTok?
I am a lurker on TikTok.
Are you? That seems like that should be your platform, but
Yeah. It's funny because my story with TikTok, I've shared this in other podcasts. As you know, or maybe you may not know, I'm a big mental health advocate. I myself have had OCD my entire life. So I understand the stress that comes along with social media. There's really good things and really not great things.
yep.
And so for me, one of my triggers is honestly TikTok, because I have posted there and I got a lot of troll comments. And I just
Uh,
was like, ooh, it made me feel icky. And I understand, I'm working through that, block, delete, move on. Who cares if people don't know you? And I get
but
it. But I am a
still,
human being. I'm a very sensitive human being. And so that was difficult for me. So I took a long break from posting there, but I used to post there, and I'm thinking about coming back. It's just been more of a personal mental struggle because that is one of my trigger points
yeah,
that could easily put me into kind of like an area of a spiral. But I
yeah,
think TikTok is amazing. I think that they've done things that no other social platform has done. I think they've done an amazing job at promoting people that are not just really big verified accounts. It's a
right.
great way to anyone's content can be seen. And I think that's probably where Instagram has been a little bit behind.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's, I just think the creativity on TikTok is like nothing I've ever seen before.
Yeah, yeah, but I don't wanna gloss over what you just said because that is so, so important is your mental health, obviously,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
we are starting to move more into the, like, self-care thing, and obviously
Mhm.
with COVID and people being home and then having to go back out into the real world and that kinda stuff, but I think that I love that you said you took a break from it because I think a lot of people are afraid to take breaks from things because they think it's
Mhm.
gonna hurt their business.
Yeah.
So obviously taking care of you and how you feel about something. And no, it's not silly because that's like what do you call that earworm or when like a song gets in your head and
Yeah.
somebody makes a crappy comment that it sticks with you for days
Yeah.
and whatever it's not to be taken lightly for sure. So I love that you said that and not everybody, wants to talk about that, but I think there's a ton of people that need to hear
Yeah.
it.
And sometimes, like, I wish there had been this like beautiful moment of me being like, you know what? I'm going to take a break. I kind of had a full breakdown. It
Breakdown.
was like, "Wah." So it wasn't like something that I
Was
was
it
just like,
pretty?
I'm going to take a quick little break. And if you're feeling that way, then take it. I mean, I
Yeah,
am all about you first, what brings you joy, what's helping feed your soul and your mental health. At the end of the day, that is all we have. And
exactly.
if you're worried about leaving something because you're worried about the business, I mean, if at the end of the day, if you're not here to do the business,
Yeah,
that's going to be the challenge. If you're not taking care of yourself, how can you take care of your family and your clients? And I know it's really hard. I mean, it's really hard to walk away. And sometimes it's really hard to get back into it. So if anyone's listening that's in my position that's struggling to get back into it, hey, I'm with you. You're not alone. And there's other things that you can do. And I choose to do what brings me joy and help my community and to give back. And I create content first for me, and then I think about what else might be helpful for people, because I know myself, if it's not something that I want to do and have fun with, I'm not going to be happy. It's not going to be the same experience. And I really truly feel that people can feel that
oh yeah.
on the other side of
Mhm.
me saying that.
Yeah, and I'm constantly saying, if you don't like it or if you don't wanna do it, don't do it because you're not gonna do it, you're not gonna do it well, and you're not gonna have fun with it. It's just not gonna benefit you, for sure.
I mean, it's okay to not do that for a point, right? We all have to do things that we don't love to do. Do I love to go to other platforms sometimes and post? I don't have as much fun there. Do I know that I need to? Yes. So, for me, it's kind of like going to the gym. There's aspects of the gym that I like better than others. I do not like getting on that big stair climber thing that's like the endless stairs, but I get on it, right? And there's other things that I'm like, oh, I can sit down and do this. I like that better. So, yeah, there is a balance. But I will say, if there is something that is truly, absolutely weighing on you, where like, I never want to do this, that's okay. What can you do? So if you are like, I'm never going to do video, I don't care how many classes I take or how many, maybe I go to a hypnotherapist about my fear of video, whatever it is, maybe you can't get on video. Maybe there's like maybe there's some reason. So podcast, blog, what can you do
Yep.
that you can still get your brand out there and still help people
Yeah.
and share your expertise?
Exactly, exactly. Okay, and speaking of balance, your kids and Daisy, your rescue pup, are always integrated in your social media, but it's so natural. How I know that that's a question that realtors always have. It's like it used to be, should I have a business Instagram or a business Facebook page or whatever, and a personal. And then, then you would be juggling all these accounts. Facebook, I don't know, business pages, I don't really do a whole lot anymore. I think it seems like that might go away at some point. But Instagram is definitely a place where you can, and I always tell realtors, again, doing what you're comfortable with and what you're going to actually do. But if that's what you enjoy, that's what people need to see as being who you are. Like, okay, you're a mom and you're a dog lover and whatever the case may be, showing up as that on Instagram makes you a real person, right? And it's not just houses and stuff that you've sold and all that, but it's your family. And so what advice do you give to people about balancing that out? And if they do decide to do two accounts, how to balance that out as well and decide what goes where? Because obviously you want to put both on your personal. It gets
Right.
confusing.
I know this is the
It's
conversation
hard.
I have all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first part of that is, how do I integrate more human content? No matter what, if you have a quote unquote business account because you've designated it as this is going to be my account that's about real estate and about the community, it's still always a good idea to humanize that content, meaning showing your face. Maybe you're doing a video, perhaps it's about the community, you're interviewing your favorite small local business, you're going to the hidden secret speakeasy, and did you know in this zip code, whatever it is, okay?
Yeah.
So you can still humanize that. You can write like you talk, that's one another way to humanize it. So we still want to have human elements. We just aren't going to see a lot of engagement with stock photos and, things that look like advertisements. Things that look like advertisements generally have the same template, logos. And so if I go to your grid and that's all I see, I don't have much to engage with because I'm not coming to Instagram, at least right now. Maybe I will in 5 years. I'm not coming to Instagram to buy a house or find a realtor. I can do both of those things and sometimes will, and it's by chance. But you're putting out content hoping that every person who sees it might be in the same exact mindset looking for that. So it's a little bit different market too. I mean, we're all looking for houses. So
Yep.
we're on the alert, but let's talk about a market that's, a little bit more normal. It's probably more heightened now where people are looking for social, for that, posting that maybe they didn't see and they're trying to get in before 30 other people. So I think you can always humanize your content in those ways. Now, when you asked about my co-stars, that happened by accident. I didn't even realize that was going to become a thing. And so a lot of the things that I do, that's why I test, because I accidentally learn things. And what I found is people really loved the co-stars. And by the way, your co-stars don't have to be human or animal.
Right.
I had a co-star named Alien Plant, AP for short. And this alien plant was one of my co-stars for a good 8 months. And
Oh my gosh.
alien plant left the planet. She went back to her home planet. We had a whole ceremony for her. And people still say, people will send me pictures. Look, it's an AP. And they're sending me these pictures. And so you can make anything part of your co-stars. And I think my big takeaway is there's magic in the mundane. I say that all the time. You can make boring content more engaging by asking people something about it. I talked about the coffee mug example. I'm drinking coffee right now. I could post a cute picture of me saying morning coffee, or I could say, hey, do you guys collect coffee mugs? I have this collection of just emoji coffee mugs.
Right.
Someone is going to remember it or notice it. They may not comment on it. You probably will get comments on it, but people will remember those little things. And then they start seeing it again and again. And it's these anchor points of things that you know about them. Like everybody knows if you want to know what to watch on Netflix, Hulu, or any other channel, you're going to come to me because I have seen everything under the sun.
Or me, because I have to.
Yeah. And to the point where I had to make a highlight on my profile because so many people were asking, like, just go check out the highlight.
Oh yeah, no, we started a running list. We were going to do it with our staff, like a running list of every time we watched something and loved it, like we would write it down, and then it became too organizing.
And that has nothing to do with real estate, but everything to do with you connecting with another human being.
Yeah. And I want to point out that just solved your problem. Earlier, you said that you hated writing captions, and I am with you. And I know that more than half of us are.
Mhm.
that completely solved your issue of having to do that because now you're just talking about it and then you're done and it's fun and it doesn't feel like I'm sure you're not walking around the house like, okay, what else can I do a video about? It's your natural day and it's like, oh, I can post this really quickly and
Yeah.
it's going to resonate with somebody. And then also too, I want to point out that when you had mentioned like the curated stuff and I'm not going on Instagram to hire a realtor. What you're doing instead when you're posting organically and talking about, you're building relationships with people so that when they do eventually decide to buy a house or whatever, they're going to remember you guys have the same coffee mug or whatever, or you're going to start engaging with that person and it's building that relationship. What do your DMs look like? Like, how do you manage that? And how do you feel about that? Because before, remember, it was like, oh, don't slide into my DM. And now it's like that's how we connect with our customers. Like we get to talk to them and they feel like they're, oh my gosh, I'm talking to somebody from this company. They're actually human back there, running the show. So how do you manage that? And what is your advice on?
I don't manage it very well because I'm transparent and I'm human. And if I was in my DMs all day, every day, I would do nothing but that. I have hundreds a day,
Okay.
and I respond to every single one.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's me typing it out. Sometimes you're going to get multiple voice messages from me. And part of what I want to do as long as I can, and I'm just going to do it forever. I'm not probably going to be able to do it at the same scale, but I want to do the unscalable. When someone hears from me and they have a question and they hear me say their name and they hear me specifically talk about their account and this post over here and that, they know that it was for them. That is very hard to do. It is
Yes.
not a long-term successful
Sustainable.
strategy,
Yeah.
right? It's not sustainable.
Yeah.
But yeah, the DMs I feel are the lifeblood. I just feel like that is such an important part. That's where people get the like, no trust. That's where you're having private one-to-one conversations. And if we would just want to look at the platform perspective, it's hugely important to the platform. In fact, one of the announcements that came along with the Reels thing was they're focusing on messaging. Now, I don't know what they're doing with messaging. They didn't go into that, but they did say, and I wish I had it in front of me to quote it, something along the lines of, we know that more users are spending time with friends and family in messaging more so than the feed and stories.
Wow.
So I don't know what's coming with that, but the machine, the computer says, oh, you're messaging this person. So we're just going to take a data point and we're going to put it in this column. And that's a really big data point. So we're just going to assume that maybe you guys want to see each other's content. So the more that you're proactively messaging people, the better, because it's going to help the system understand who should see your content higher up in their feed and vice versa.
Wow. That is really interesting because, they're always competing, Instagram and Facebook and Apple and Google, and they're always
Mhm.
trying to one up each other. And I think that they'll try anything once too. They're like, Facebook,
Yeah.
I don't know, especially with messaging and even on our store site, we can have a Facebook Messenger pop up, but and we actually, I think it does feed through our chat. Anyway, it's
Yeah.
the same thing, and I never really thought of that with the DMs part, and that also too, it's established a little bit differently. It's not thought of as being a weirdo now when you're messaging people.
Right. No, true. It is. And it's funny because I talk about, did I ever envision myself as a 40 something year old woman who made most of my friends on social media? Well,
Yeah,
no,
right.
I never thought about that growing up.
Yeah.
Right. But it's true. It's not unusual to initiate a direct message with someone you don't know. However, I believe personally there is an etiquette, and I believe that we're very smart. I think 99.9% of the time we can tell if this is something you're sending to a group of people, a copy paste, or some kind of bot or something along those lines. There is something to be said for efficiency. I'm all about efficiency. Like if you have systems to make you more efficient, however, not at the cost of turning someone off to your brand, because for me that's sacred space, which is kind of ironic because you don't need my phone number, my email, or anything to connect with me, right? You don't even need to be connected, you don't even need to be following me. But I think because it's so open and that's where I have so many conversations, do not spam me ever. in my DM because I'll be turned off. I'm probably going to block you. If you're on LinkedIn, I'll report you as spam because you can
Yep.
report promotional or spam.
Yep.
And that button is hot. Like
Hot.
I am clicking that button all the time in
Same.
LinkedIn. And I already hear people are saying, but how do I sell real estate if I don't promote myself? Well, you talk to people just like you would if you were at a networking event, if you were at an open house. Well, obviously, if you're at an open house, they know that you are there representing real estate. If I'm at the family or neighborhood barbecue, would it be a bit unusual if you threw your business cards in someone's face as you were passing them the ketchup?
Right.
Yeah, right? That would be a little odd. It would be
Right.
a little awkward. Like you haven't even like passed me the ketchup yet or asked me my name and you're talking about your business. That's just how we work as human beings. So you have to think of these platforms as being in person with someone and how would you handle it in person and bring that over to the platform. Is it a numbers game? Unfortunately, yes. If you DM a bunch of people and copy paste, eventually you're going to get someone who's going to reply, probably because they feel guilty or uncomfortable that now you sent them this message and they feel like they have to say something back. And that's not really the way I would want people to feel when engaging with my brand either. So it is a numbers game. Yes, it works just like anything else. But my personal strategy is never to sell in the DM. What usually happens is it usually lends itself to a conversation
Yep.
where it happens naturally.
Naturally.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. We had a big time real estate guy on Instagram, and it's the first DM that came through seemed legit. And it was like, they had an idea that they wanted to do with us or whatever. And so I was like, oh yeah, well, here's our email or whatever. And then we got some canned response and I responded. I was not very nice. I was like, because I kind of thought it was maybe a bot, and that happens too. People automate their stuff. I don't feel like Instagram is the place for that. But we got some canned message and it was like a video, which I thought, oh, it's a video talking to me, like, like you and I did or whatever. And it was some video that they probably sent to a billion people. And I was like, this is a canned response. I thought you wanted to do something with us. And they deleted my comment. I was like, oh, yeah, you got called out. Like, don't do that. It's terrible. And now I have a bad taste in my mouth. And I don't even go on LinkedIn because of that reason, because we get so many. When I was a realtor, it was a constant from the mortgage brokers, want to grab a cup of coffee or, hey, I have this system, da da da. They don't even get looked at. And so I have missed some good messages from people because I don't even go on it anymore. And so just like you said, it is a numbers game. And I think there are some people that do that. Unfortunately, there are some high rollers that teach that in real estate. They're like, this is what you should do. If you send 200 messages out, you're going to get one or two people responding, but is that how you want to be looked at? And it is an industry thing. And I think that, I'm constantly telling everybody, it's like, we're all responsible for this. We want real estate to be looked at in a good light. We're not, car salesmen or, that kind of stuff. And it's up to all of us. We all have a responsibility to make sure that we get seen as such. And so talking about your day-to-day and also being mindful of how somebody's going to take that is really important. And we all kind of do have a responsibility for each other and the industry to make sure that we are honest and authentic and all of that good stuff. And I think it is a slight change from, I don't want to say how business used to be in real estate, but we are shifting quite a bit in how we market ourselves. Like this didn't used to be an option.
It's because we have so much data. We have so much access to everything. And my background is in clinical psychology. So I'm fascinated about product design and how these platforms change our behaviors because I really look at industry as irrelevant, but human behavior isn't. So, regardless of what industry you're in, when we were growing up, those strategies that may not work as effectively now, which are more advertising and that sort of thing, it worked because that's all we had.
Yep.
And now we have all the things. And to the point where, it's sometimes sad to say that, the decisions we make are so instantaneous, where if somebody were to refer us to people, maybe it's a plumber, and I Google that plumber's name, and one plumber has a YouTube channel that has 300 videos about plumbing, and the other has no YouTube videos at all, but has a website. I'm probably going to call the person with 300 videos for the fact that I'm assuming I'm making a subconscious decision or judgment that, oh, maybe they are more of an expert because they have more content. They have another data point for me to look at. And so that's how we've all been trained. It's the Amazon effect. It's the Uber effect. I see the same exact product for the same exact price. I'm going to pick this one that has 5 stars and this one instead of this one that has 4.9.
Yeah. And it's up your alley. Like you do video. And so you're going to gravitate towards people that are doing the same thing as you.
Right.
And being transparent in your business is exactly that. Like you don't want all of the clients. You want your people, your tribe, the people that are, like-minded and things like that. And so it goes back to what you said earlier about, in social media, you're talking to everybody. You're not going to be for everybody and everybody isn't going to be for you. And so by being who you are, you're attracting those people. And so I think in video, and obviously COVID has kind of forced us to do that a little bit more, people want to hear your voice. They get to see who you really are. And it's a connection that we all crave in one format or another. And so I think video is such a great way to do that. How many social media platforms are you using, and how consistent, or how do you decide? Because, we got Twitter and Pinterest, what we haven't talked about, which we won't get too deep into, but I want to know, and YouTube, like where are you at and how do you decide where you're going to hang your hat, so to speak?
So I'm at a point where I tell people, as far as efficiencies go, outsourcing is an amazing thing to do. And I'm at a point where if I were to take on something else, I would most likely need to outsource some of that, whether it's editing or a posting schedule or whatever it is. For me, I'm all in on Instagram. I am on Facebook, but certainly not to the degree that I'm on Instagram. And then Instagram has so many different platforms within Instagram itself that I spend time in all those platforms. So I truly, admittedly, I tell people you can have a favorite. You can spend your time and whatever you focus on expands. People told me I'd never make a business and never make a brand on Snapchat. It was a closed system. Nobody could find you. And apparently, according to what they were saying, is that nobody my age was on it. That was not, I mean, that's not my experience. That built my brand. And so whatever you can focus on, it can be successful for you. People said that about TikTok. I just interviewed Greg Las Vegas, who has 100% of his business from TikTok. He's been in the industry for 2 years and he's, killing it in the Vegas market, all from TikTok. And he's
Wow.
not 17. I don't know his age, but I'm assuming he's probably around the same age as I am. And I'm definitely not 17. So whatever you put your heart and soul into and focus on, it will give you an ROI. Okay. So that should be said first of all. I'm on Instagram the most. I am on Facebook. I am on LinkedIn. I'm on TikTok, but I'm more lurking. I do have a YouTube channel, but I don't spend a lot of time there. So I think number one, you need to set up your optimized websites everywhere. Think of these as optimized websites. They're really big, popular sites. So even if you have a website, they're probably going to outrank you. So if somebody searches for my name, they're not going to see my website first. They're going to see LinkedIn. And so I have to make sure that I've at least optimized the profile and there's something there. I certainly don't spend as much time on LinkedIn. Now, what I think you should do is you should check in on the comments, maybe engage with people every day. Go to Facebook for 5 minutes, go to Instagram, go to LinkedIn, wherever you want to go. YouTube is definitely something that is huge. It's searchable. It's content that I say works while you sleep. Somebody could find a video from 5 years ago. I think if somebody were to say what would be one thing that you haven't been doing that would probably get you the most ROI is I'd probably do YouTube. But for me personally, I know that I don't have that bandwidth more mentally than actually physically, but I'd have to take some of the stuff off my plate because I've got the podcast and all of that. But yeah, I mean, if I really wanted to, I would, go all in on that too. But I'm a very all-in mentality too. Like when I go in and because of what I do and because of teaching, I really would need to like be in there doing it, testing it so that I can actually say in very simple terms, here's how this works. I tried this didn't work. I noticed this. I personally can't spend that much time in all the platforms because I actually do a lot of things like speaking and education and CE classes.
You're like, I'm not on Instagram 24/7.
And I'm it. I don't have an assistant. I don't have a team. I am it. And I choose a lot of that because I like to make my own content. It's not that I have a control issue. and that I, could push that off. I personally want to stay involved in the nuances so
Yeah.
I can say, oh, this looks different. Oh, wait, this looks different. They're changing something. Here's a trend.
Right. And it's keeping you well, it's keeping you in the loop, but you're also the whole learning as you go thing. Like you're not only learning that for you, but you're also sharing that information out. And you and I are totally similar in that we do all of these things for the betterment of, realtors and people that are listening. And I think that that definitely shows through in your content. And I know that we try our best. Like we have their best interest at heart. Like we're not just trying to sell a product. In fact, I probably am doing myself a disservice by not talking about all things real estate enough and like our products.
Yeah, same. I probably should need to talk about more. People are like,
Right.
you have a book? I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Forgot to mention that. Yeah, exactly. And so, but also with that is if people like you enough or are feeling engaged, they're going to go search you out and be like, oh, whoa, check this out, all of the other things. And so I think that's the same in real estate. It's not just about what you just sold, and I think that with social media, it has changed the game a little bit. There's at least the story behind it. People are talking about how this family got into this property and, kind of the things that go behind it. But I also think that, I don't know, it's such a balance. And so one of the things that you just talked about too is like the organization part. Do you plan your weeks out? Do you plan anything? It's all off the cuff.
No, I am horrible at that. I've tried for years, years and years and years to make a content calendar, to be organized, to try paper, Trello, all the things. I have learned to embrace myself as I am.
Yeah.
And I tell people, embrace your
You're
style.
like, and that's okay.
You can be successful in a variety of different types of planning. I have a notebook and planning. I will write in my notebook ideas from stuff that I'm seeing that week. I save ideas in my notes, so I have a continuous list, and I have stuff from a year ago that I might go back to.
Yeah.
But I cannot content plan. If I do, I'm successful for a week, and that's about it. So I realize that that is not how my strategy is going to work. But I also am committed that I've got to do something. So I have a pool of stuff there. So I'm like, well, I got to do something this week. So if I am kind of in that zone, I still have something to draw upon. But a lot of times I will make ideas, and then it's almost like because I got space in my head by doing that, then I will just come up with a random idea. But I may not have ever gotten there if I hadn't written other ideas down. And I used to find that every week I would write ideas that I was going to do for the next week, and I never used those because something else would come into my mind. So you can be successful without doing content calendar. Now, if you can do a content calendar, I highly recommend it.
Yep.
You can batch create your content and do reels like 3 or 4 at a time. Highly recommend that.
Yeah.
I felt amazing. I did 2 reels yesterday and was like, wow,
Yes.
that was awesome.
Yeah. No, I'm the same way. But then you see somebody like Katie Lance and she's like talking about,
She
oh, this
always
is
texts
how,
me. She's
oh my
like,
God.
are you she's like, you've got to batch create. I go, Katie, I know. I agree with you.
Yes. Yes. No, I have her in my head, like, because she did a reel or something showing
Amazing. I
how to batch
know.
create. And I was like, this is awesome. And then I'm
I
like,
send her
I'm
messages
never going
though,
to
I'm
do
like,
it.
look what I did. I just batch created 2 videos.
Too. Exactly. No, I think that's partly what stresses me out too. And that's where I'm at right now. Cause we have to do all of the things, we're business and we have to have sales. And so I have to do the salesy things. Our newsletters work really great. So we do the email newslettering. And then I do use Dropbox paper that saved me when I had a staff person who was doing all of the marketing so that I could see what was going on and make sure that what I wanted implemented was going to be in there. And then when I took that back over, I stripped it and had it just be the things I needed to do. And that could only be like 2 things a day. But the batch creating, I was proud of myself last night too, because I scheduled 2 posts and I was like, okay, Tuesday's over about now I got to get, Wednesday. But I think, again, going back to exactly what you're saying is that didn't work for you. So you stopped trying to do it because that's what was stressing you out. And so that frees up headspace for being able to do the stuff that you are going to do and that is working.
Yeah. And I do force myself to do a couple of things. I mean, to bring like something outside of content creation, but like the workout thing, right? Or
Yeah.
walking or whatever it is that you're doing, meditation. Sometimes I'm like, all right, let me just do 5 minutes of meditation. Maybe I'll want to do 10 when
Yeah.
I'm in it, right? So I still will write down ideas. I'll scroll through the feed and see what's trending on Reels, and I'll just write down stuff. And so I still force myself to have a moment where I'm thinking of things or I'm forcing myself to write stuff down with the idea that, okay, maybe I will use something from here, or maybe something else will inspire me. And sometimes I've created whole posts and I've saved them and I didn't even post them for like 2 or 3 weeks because something else came into my mind. So for me, that's how it works. I kind of say, well, let's do a little something.
Yeah.
And then maybe it will, instead of my 5 minute bike ride, maybe I'll do 30. You never know.
Yes.
Maybe I'll feel great. And I'll be like, well, you know what? I'm already here. Might as well keep going. So
Yeah. No, that's great advice because I think I'm a terrible time blocker. I just can't do it. It will never happen. Even though I think about it all the time, like I should be doing it, but I don't do it. So that's showing me that I'm not going to do that. But like kind of the batch creating, I'm like, okay, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to get a week's worth of content done. That
that
stresses
would
me
be
out. So
amazing. I mean, I don't know that life, but I
I
think it
don't
would be
do it.
amazing.
I'm trying. I'm like, okay, it would make my life so much easier. And then I'm like,
Mhm.
something will go, I don't know. I haven't done it yet. So clearly I have to think of another way of doing it. And maybe the way I'm doing it is okay.
I
Maybe if
think
I
as long
just,
as you're still doing it, it is okay. And I think, and to be transparent, I've tried a lot of the things. So I still think you have to try.
yeah,
Try
yeah,
the batch creation, try sitting down to make a content calendar. You might find that there are bits and pieces that work and little nuances. Like for me, for some reason, bizarre, I like to write an idea on a post-it and I will have all these different post-its and I like one idea per post-it. And for some reason that worked for
works
me.
for
And,
you.
Katie laughs at me. She's like, oh my gosh, you and your post-it ideas. And she's like, don't you want to put it in like Asana or Trello? My brain doesn't work that
Nope,
way.
nope,
I
nope.
can't go to the grocery store unless I have a paper list. Okay. So, you really have to try all the things
Yeah,
and see what works for you. And maybe there's bits and pieces. But I just find that and I'm speaking for me, when there's so many restrictions or a box, it becomes an excuse for me not to do it.
yeah,
Oh, I don't have 30 minutes to get on the bike right now and I got to do 30 minutes. Well, I have 5. So, so it's one of those things where for me, it's like, okay, I don't have the right microphone. I don't have editing. I don't really know what I'm going to say. You don't even have to post that video. Maybe just making it is actually going to help. And there is a benefit of doing something like making a video and not posting it because you're getting practice. You're rewatching yourself. You can listen to it. So you don't have to actually publish the thing that you're making, but you do have to get into the habit of finding your rhythm, whatever that is. My rhythm is writing stuff down in notes on a daily basis. And
yeah.
that's what works for me.
Now, are your reels, they're not live, they're video, and then you create the reel, right? With the videos that you save.
Yeah, most of the reels that I create, so you can shoot directly within the Reels camera.
Yeah.
I, at this moment in time, like to use the stories camera, record in clips as a story, save it to my camera roll, and then upload those clips into
Ah,
Reels, and then I'll edit from there.
nice. That was a good tip. I'm going to try that because we're not doing reels and we need to be.
You
It,
do need to be. I think you need to do like packaging, like the products
yep.
and what goes on in like the warehouse, and like what's it like opening up like the storeroom.
Sounds really
Like
great, Chelsea.
make all
Thanks.
the things. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I will say that along with that is that when you just talked about, and then we'll wrap up because I know we could go on forever, but you just talked about at least do 5 minutes of it or, what I have found for me is that when I do that, I see other things in my business that need to be fixed. And so just by going in, it does get a little ADD and like squirrel, but at least I wouldn't have known to fix that on my website. Like if you're posting something and then you post the link to it and you go to it and you're like, oh, this link is broken. Like I would have never known that. So there are other benefits of doing that as well, I guess is what I'm trying to get out, is that it always does help me a little bit. And then I leave my, self room for a little bit of ADD and like going down that rabbit hole, but it was necessary. Otherwise I would have never known.
Mhm.
So, even just doing the 5 or the 10 minutes of it, I think is super helpful advice. And I'm going to try to take that advice as
Hey,
well.
just make a reel, save it as a draft. You don't have to
Yeah.
post it. You'll learn something making it.
Yep, and I'm telling you the best stuff that I had to do some fulfillment because we had our fulfillment person was, gone for the day, and then somebody wanted something next day, and I was like, "Oh, I'll fulfill." And it was like, "Oh, I can do a cute video." It happened to be one of our most popular videos, and it was in a dark, room, and it wasn't cute, but it was the content, and people were like, it was probably our most engaged actual reel. The comments alone were like, "Can I get the link to that cute homebuyer journal?" It took off, and it's like you just never know, with stuff
It's
like that.
because
And
we're subjective about our own content. Gary Vee was like, you can't be subjective about your content. I still am subjective about my content. I'm like, maybe this isn't as good as the last reel. I don't want to post it. But, we don't get to decide if other people like our content. We get to decide what format it's in, the frequency that we post it, and what the topic is. And that's really all that we control.
yeah, and that's mostly most of our business is trying stuff like, oh, we'll create this sign or this design and see if it
Mhm.
goes. And
Yeah.
some stuff flies and some stuff bombs, and it's like, okay, we'll get rid of that. But being a new business, even in the world of real estate, like, oh, there's all this cute stuff, like people don't always know what to do with it, and so it does take a lot of explanation. And so there's a lot of untapped social media stuff that we can be doing to help our business as well. So, and the connection, it's why I do this, it's why you do that. And I think that it keeps us going and excited about our quote unquote jobs.
Absolutely.
All right, Chelsea. Well, thank you so much for being here. I'm so glad that I slid into your DM
Me too.
and we chatted. But okay, I want to talk about where people can find you and your books, because I actually got your book because I want to write a book, and I was like, let me get all the real estate books. Your book was one of the first ones because of the cover. I loved it. And it's a matte cover.
Straight to the point, just
Yes.
hey, what to post.
Yes. No, the all black cover, literally 3 words, all of that stuff. And that's the same with content, like simple is good. So tell us where we can all find you. Not that we didn't just talk about that for an
Yeah, the
hour, but
best place is Instagram, and slide into my DMs and say hello. I have a link to the book and my podcast and a free download in my bio. It's just my first and last name. I will spell my last name because it's a little bit hard. So it's unique. It's Peitz. It rhymes with lights, and it's Peitz. And I almost tell people it's like Old McDonald, Eio. So now you won't forget it.
oh, that's awesome.
Peitz.
Love that. No, and the lights thing really did help. So if you have a hard last name, you guys, she puts in her bio rhymes with lights. I was
Yeah.
like, yes, I know how to say her name now.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. My maiden name was Smith, so nobody ever had a problem with that.
Right, exactly. I went from Hope to Hicks. I'm like, oh, 2
Oh, that's not
H's.
too bad. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So
yeah,
that's the same monogram. So there
yeah,
we go.
yeah, exactly. All right, Chelsea, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.